you were a decorated Army veteran, and you're hearing this news about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth using a messaging app for sensitive information. And as it happens, they ended up putting a reporter on this group chat where they laid out war plans on Yemen and accidentally added this reporter. And then hours later, they carried out those very war plans bombing Yemen. As a decorated Army veteran, how would the Army handle an intelligence breach of this kind?
I mean, this is astonishing. And I think about, we always, in Afghanistan, we always took things like OPSEC very seriously. And OPSEC is operational security. And there are 19-year-olds who I served with in Afghanistan who are seemingly taking OPSEC more seriously than what we're seeing from senior leaders in the U.S. government right now. And so at a time, specifically right now, at a time when we are having public servants who are losing their jobs when all they were doing was making sure our food was safe. At a time when we have public servants who were losing their job and all they were doing was making sure they were protecting critical infrastructure, that they are losing their jobs and all they were doing were making sure that we were supporting our veterans. My question is, who's going to lose their job for this? Who is going to lose their job to know that we have violated serious and significant national security operational secrets? And I'm still wondering who is going to be held accountable for what we saw.
Do you think it should be the top of the chain, which is the Department of Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth?
I mean, I believe in accountability. And I think they have to figure out who is responsible for this and under whose watch did this happen and was it allowed to be tolerated. But I know that, when I was leading soldiers in Afghanistan, we took operational security very, very seriously. And it's my hope that the federal government is doing the same thing.
That is the Democratic governor of Maryland speaking to Sarah just this morning on the show. And the questions he is asking is why the president's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, for one, is in the headlines this morning, to say the least, for all the wrong reasons, after the White House says he is the official who added a journalist to a group chat sharing Yemen battle plans. That chat playing out in wild fashion on an unclassified messaging app. To state the obvious, that is not protocol. And yes, there are many easily accessible and established ways for national security officials to communicate safely. But what happens now? Where will the fallout go? Joining us right now is the Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thank you for coming in. You have said that you are demanding a full accounting from the agencies on how this happened. What do you think should happen here?
Well, there needs to be an investigation. I think the fact that if you read that Signal conversation, the fact that nobody said, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Should we take this offline to the SCIF, a classified space, to discuss this in person? Nobody asked, who is this guy, JG, on the chat? Suggests to me that perhaps this is happening in other instances. They're using Signal to transmit classified information in other conversations. So we need to figure out the full extent of that, and whether there's been any damage done through that particular potential pattern of communication, and who needs to be held accountable.
If this is investigated, who should be doing the investigating, considering who all was involved in the chat? The White House, State, Defense, DNI, CIA. I mean, Even Treasury was on there, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, ordinarily you'd think the inspectors general of the different agencies would collaborate on this. But as you know, a lot of these inspectors general were fired. There aren't truly independent people to investigate. And that's one of the reasons why Congress, at least many of us in Congress, are very upset about that. All that being said, now there has to be some independent investigation, whether it's by the acting inspectors general or committees of Congress. Tomorrow, we're having a worldwide threats hearing in the Intelligence Committee in the House. I'm sure this is going to come up today in the Senate as well in their analogous hearing, but we need to have answers quickly.
I mean, this started playing out yesterday afternoonish. Have you heard anything? You can't obviously speak about classified matters. We definitely know that from this from how this played out. But is there a conversation among Intelligence Committee members? Yeah, that also not funny at this point. Is there a conversation amongst Intelligence Committee members on pulling people to the Hill in a classified setting to get some of these answers. That can be quick and easily done.
Yes, there's extensive conversation, and that's actually going to happen tomorrow. We're going to have this hearing that I call the Worldwide Threats hearing in a classified setting along with an open setting. So in the classified setting, I'm sure that all of us are going to be asking very pointed questions of the new DNI as well as others about this particular situation, basically because they were part of this chat as well.
They were. I have seen some reporting that some of the conversations now underway among White House officials are over whether the president's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, should be forced to resign or should lose his job over this. Do you think he should?
Potentially, yes. I'd like to see this investigation, though. I think I have a feeling that this isn't the only Signal conversation that happened involving classified information. Just before I came on air, I got this text from the mom of a sailor who showed a bulletin informing the sailor and all of his colleagues that Signal is not an appropriate place to be having a transmission of classified or even in some cases confidential information or top secret information. And so the fact that an average enlisted person knows this, and the fact that if they had engaged in the same behavior, they would be court-martialed or forced to resign, means that whether it's Mike Waltz or Pete Hegseth or anyone else, they need to face similar consequences if they're responsible.
Well, let's see what happens in this Senate hearing today, and also very interested to what happens in the House hearing tomorrow before your committee. Congressman, thank you for coming in.
Kim, let's start with this massive national security blunder by top Trump officials. I want to play a little bit more of what Jeff Goldberg told CNN about being added to this Signal chat group. Have a listen.
Nobody raised the question, why are we talking about this over Signal? And nobody said, hey, who is JG? Because you show up in a little bubble as your initials. And no one at any point said, who's JG? And when I withdrew from the group, you formally remove yourself. You hit a button. It says JG has removed himself from the group. I assumed that somebody would say, hey, who just removed himself from the group? Nothing.
Well, all of this, Kim, does seem to paint a picture of an administration that is extremely cavalier. That's true of using Signal, of adding in a journalist. They apparently didn't even know he was there. But also just of how serious, or unserious, sorry, they seem to take carrying out these bombings. I just want to show our viewers this. Mike Waltz replying with a fist and an American flag, almost like this is just, I don't know, just a big game. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I've been trying to think about how it happened. Signal, since it's an end-to-end encrypted app that is highly recommended by privacy organizations, is sort of the way we do our job in Washington, D.C., whether you are a lawmaker on Capitol Hill or a journalist. Mike Waltz was just a lawmaker on Capitol Hill, and Pete Hegseth was a journalist. But also those two men served in war zones where I can remember years of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Also, one of the only ways that people felt being securely in touch with me as a journalist and speaking to me so they wouldn't get in trouble is on Signal. Finally, Signal has a laptop version. You can access your Signal app on your computer. So I could see someone setting up this chain on their unclassified computer, and you can give Signal access to your address book. So somehow it populated with the wrong JG, and then everyone sees initials because you generally don't put your full name in your Signal app, except for a couple of these folks. And so I can see how it happened. But you can also see that the way they were so comfortable using this, they must use this on a regular basis. And that raises questions about not the security of the app, but the security of all of their phones. Steve Witkoff, if you look at the timeline, was in Moscow when this chat was set up. So it's the phone that is the area of weakness. The Russians and the Chinese both are great into getting into our devices, as several public recent leak scandals have shown. So did Witkoff have this on a government secure phone that is more hardened against that kind of intrusion? Or did he have it on his public commercial phone because he's a civilian and he's never really thought about being the target
Right.
of a state intelligence actor? These are all the questions that now the intelligence community will be scrambling to answer.